this brave new world of learning on your own. There's some promising things to it, I guess, but is it really where college is headed, Neal?
Well, it's hard to tell, and the research on internet-based education, electronic education, is still very new, and I think the best you can say is we don't really know whether it's better or worse based on the research we have. What we do know is it probably works for some people, and it probably works for some areas of study, study where you don't need to be in a classroom or in a lab or something like that. So it should be an option, and we shouldn't put any artificial barriers against it, saying that you can't get the same aid that you would to go to a brick and mortar school if you use online. And so let's make it an option. Certainly it seems to have a lot of potential, but let's not say that it is a panacea, because as far as we know, it isn't.
I learned a lot in classrooms, in part because I was sitting with 20 other people. And so there's a sentimental part of me that sort of hates to see that go away, but is it an answer, Serena, for kids who need to fill gaps in their education, need to fill gaps in their ability to be in a building with other kids?
No, I think it is. I think it's definitely for-profit or online institutions do have benefits, and for some who, for example, single working mothers perhaps who can't get away, who don't have the financial means to have daycare during the day to have that time, and if they have to have their classes at night or whenever is available for them, I think online courses do provide that ability for some people. I do think we, as was just said by my colleague, we do have to be aware of problems and gouging of costs, et cetera, as the Senate is looking into now on gainful employment regulations. So it's sort of a balance to figure out how we can continue that, but also be aware of the concerns and taking advantage of people as well.
Maite, if a kid leaving 12th grade comes to you and says, well, I can go to this conventional school or I can do this online course, what do you tell them? What should they be aware of as far as pitfalls and possibilities?
I think my advice would be to really understand your options. I think it's good to have the option of online higher education. Now, if it was a Latino student, I would stress a point that you mentioned earlier, the social capital component, which is incredibly important for Latino students. I think that fellow student support, peer support, is critically important, as is the role of the educator and as a role model in the life and mentor in the life of these students. And it's very, very important for Latino students, particularly first-generation college students, to have that kind of community support in addition to their family. And I think a classroom experience would be is what I would advise.
What do we have to be careful of, Deborah?
Well, I think a couple of things. We, meaning the students, or we, meaning those organizations that try to support them. I think there are hybrid opportunities. You can be in a classroom and take some classes online, and I think that's an opportunity. Worried about it? I don't think so, because I think today's student learns in very different ways. But I think we need to be cautious in looking at the offerings and the cost and the linkage of these online institutions to a career. And ultimately, that's why many of our students go, is they want a better life, better education, and to help their family and have a career. And looking at whatever institutions, nonprofit, for-profit, online or not, and the opportunities to link them to a career is incredibly important.
Linkage, key word. If I'm an employer and I have two resumes in front of me, one from somebody who just got an online BA and somebody who went to a conventional school, do I know yet from experience whether kids who did 4 years of coursework online are as good as the other ones? I don't know. Is the degree accepted in the same way? Do we know that?
I don't know that we know that.
So how long is it going to take? I mean, there are people sitting in front of their computer screens right now, yes, taking second-year math or something.
I think there's something we do. What we do know is, we all know the 15, 20 Ivy League institutions, and if that's on your resume, how that can give you a bump up. But the majority of us have enrolled and completed at a public institution, and where there isn't necessarily the same kind of gravitas. And I think Latino students specifically in work we've done have told us, that they believe they can get a quality education anywhere if they're motivated. So why would they go elsewhere and why would they pay more? And thinking about that practical, pragmatic perspective means that they're making college choices based on what's relevant and appropriate for them, and a little bit less on the prestige of the institution. And that has an implication, I think, for resumes, but also it also means they're putting on themselves that they can have the quality education they deserve if they're motivated.
And I think it's important to note that a lot of labor markets are very local, and we have evidence of local employers working with local community colleges, for-profit schools, and to include online programs and saying, would you provide us graduates with skill X, Y, and Z? And that's what we're going to hire. So there could very well be lots of local markets where they do know the quality of a largely online program and say, yes, we'll employ those people. So it's very hard to generalize on any of these things, especially knowing that there's so many local labor markets.
Yeah.